Welcome back. This is On the Money with Ryan Wheelis, the founder of Allied Wealth, a financial advisor. And you know what? I haven't said it in a while. I don't think I've said it on the podcast.
Oh, please don't.
Come on. A pilot as well. The lead
Please
pilot. Come on.
Spike,
Sure
how do you determine if someone is a pilot or not?
They tell you within the first 2 minutes.
Usually about a minute. By the way.
But you don't. You
I'm
don't
Ryan
talk
Wheelis,
about it.
and I'm an aviator. I know.
You don't talk about it. I've got to ask you, because I've always wondered. You're a financial advisor. You're the founder of Allied Wealth. You've got offices all around Houston. What, chicken or the egg? What did you jump into financial services first, and you're like, oh, by the way, I need another hobby to take up my brain space. I'll just do something light, like becoming a pilot. Or was this in your family, or were you doing this before? Because it is not easy to just become a pilot and get all those hours. You run a successful practice. You have a wonderful family. You got wonderful kids. How do you fit it all in? When did you become the pilot?
I moved to Houston from Austin, Texas in 1999 with $200 in my checking account and a U-Haul truck half full of used furniture. And I moved here to go to flight school at San Jacinto College. And so went to flight school, was a terrible student in high school, terrible. I didn't know how to spell A. And so got to flight school, though, and fell in love with it. My dad is an airline pilot, flew F-14 to the Navy. So I was always kind of thought aviation was cool, but next thing I know, I'm actually going to flight school and getting, college credits for ratings and all this kind of stuff, and loved it. And then I went to continue that path and become an airline pilot, but some real bad people ran some really big airplanes into some really tall buildings in New York City on September 11th, 2001. And that really put the aviation industry in a tailspin, no pun intended. And it was a very, very difficult time to navigate aviation. And I had some choices to make. I could continue down the aviation path, which I did as a contract pilot for many, many moons. But there was no real money to be made in that contract pilot business. And so I was fortunate to be shown the path of another opportunity, and I took it, and have been enjoying that ride ever since. And we really do equate aviation. One of the things back at the flight school that I worked at, they would bring the instrument pilot students to me, especially the ones having a hard time, because I had a very good success rate of getting these guys and gals through instrument training. And one of the ways I did it is I just had this unique ability. I don't know where it came from, but to break down complex subjects, into easy, bites for people to understand. And I was good
sometimes
at it.
Hearing them for the first time and trying to wrap their head around, and knowing that somebody's literally their own lives and other people's lives are in their hands. And I'm sorry, it is so easy to make the metaphors here.
Yeah,
because there's so many things. With the retirement, you can't go anywhere if you don't have a flight plan. You don't want to hop on any airplane that has a 60% chance of arrival, right?
I use the same teaching methodologies to this day that I use in every client meeting, or my team of advisors use in every client meeting. If we're talking about stuff that, I even ask, hey, how'd it go with Bob and Jamie when they came in? Oh man, great. He's an engineer. I'm like, okay, how far deep in the weeds did you get? Real deep. I'm like, guys, get those folks back in here. You probably did them a disservice, especially the wife, right? Because she's not an engineer, right? So, you just got to find out where people are, Spike, and you've got to take this stuff to them at their level. And an example of that is, if you're a doctor, if you're a heart surgeon, I don't have any idea what it is you do. I can't get out of my desk and come over to your office and start being a heart surgeon, right? I've got to learn a lot of stuff to do that. Being a financial advisor, providing financial advice and investment advice, and an insurance agent and insurance advice and annuity advice and life insurance and Medicare and health insurance and retirement, all this stuff. It takes a long time to get to where you can really do it effectively, and to be able to communicate what you do in that arena at a very simple, understanding level is huge. But Spike, going back to what you were saying a minute ago. We talk about risk, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we just did a test of your current financial plan, and it's got a 60% chance of reaching its destination. So if you were on a plane and the pilot comes over the radio and says, hey, good morning, folks, this is your captain speaking. We're headed over to Hawaii today, and we've only got a 60% shot of making it. Those of you who want to get off the airplane now, you can. I mean, are you staying on the plane? I'm out of there, right?
Out of there.
And if it comes on the air, hey folks, the weather in Hawaii is great today. We've got a 100% chance of making it over there, no problems whatsoever. You're going to stay in that plane and go to Hawaii, right? So it really can be as simple as that analogy to help folks understand. And then too, Spike, in aviation, here's a perfect example. Yesterday in Houston, we had some nasty weather. So I was flying back with the kids and Callie in the plane, and we were coming from Marathon, Florida. Up from Marathon to, and we don't go over the water, by the way. We come over the land.
Oh, really?
And we stop in New Orleans for gas, right? It's kind of our they got cheap gas there, and I'm cheap, really cheap. And so we stop in New Orleans for gas, and I look at the weather, and I see this massive line of thunderstorms coming to Houston. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to end run the weather, which means we're going to fly around the entire system, and we're going to come around the back side of it and land at the airport. Well, guess what? That was done yesterday, right? We had people concerned as can be because we were flying. Callie's dad has this massive text thread with her group family chat about this trip we're doing, right? And oh my God, right? We flew around weather that was massive, caused mass destruction in Houston, still 100,000 people without power. But we flew around it. We didn't fly through it. Mm-hmm. We had plenty of gas to go anywhere we needed to go to get around this weather with a great amount of distance between us and the weather. We were in clear skies and sunshine the entire way. Minor turbulence, and I mean minor. Wouldn't even really known we were navigating weather. There was an opportunity with 8 air traffic control said, hey, there's a gap right there. We just had 2 airplanes go there. They said the ride wasn't that bad. I've got my wife and kids on the board. Wasn't that bad. I'm going to keep going a little bit further here. I can see clear skies up ahead. I can get around the backside, land at Hooks Airport, no problem. That's exactly what we did. The thing that we think about here, though, is that before I put the airplane in the sky coming out of New Orleans, we had a plan. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I measured the distance from where the weather was. So it was in College Station, moving towards Hooks Airport. And so I measured the distance that it had traveled in 45 minutes, okay? And it had traveled about 30 miles. And then I looked at the time it would take me to end run this weather, which is 2 hours. So I knew that weather in that time period would have moved almost 70 miles. And 70 miles meant it had passed Hooks. It was well past Hooks, okay? And we had enough time to beat the weather on the front side of the weather, go around the back side of it, and get in and land. And that's exactly what we did.
Okay, so let me bring it back, folks, for our radio listeners and our video watchers here on since it's called On the Money. Let's bring it back to the dollars and cents. Equate this then to the retirement portfolio. What are the weather fronts that you see? What are the weather fronts that and do you treat your portfolios the same way? You say, look, we're at the retirement end line here. This is my family. This is Callie and the kids in the back. I'm not taking risks. I also like what you said before. It's like we didn't go over the water. Is that again because of risk? It's like it's just not worth the risk if you can go around the coastline. If something happens to the airplane, you can land when you need to. When
going over the water, if you lose an engine, you're halfway there. You're swimming, right? And I couldn't think of anything more scary than swimming in the middle of the ocean with my wife and kids on board. That's no way. That's not happening. And the funny thing is going up around the Panhandle of Florida and over to the left, down the Gulf Coast there. The difference in time, you ready for this? 23 minutes.
Really?
23 minutes. That's how much time it was.
I guess maybe headwinds.
So is it worth 23 minutes to hang yourself out over the middle of the ocean with the risk of losing an engine in the middle of the ocean and going down and having to land, ditch the airplane in the water?
And this goes back to what you were saying before, is not looking at returns, and the return here being arriving 23 minutes sooner, as opposed to measuring the risk. And the risk for you was going all the way around the coast, not taking that risk with your family. Do you do the same with the portfolios, or does it depend on who it is?
Well, really, it's part of an overall plan, bud. I mean, it's the financial plan, okay? It's the retirement plan, which is the Social Security plan, the investment plan, the income plan, the tax plan, Medicare plan, healthcare plan, legacy plan, right? Investment selection, risk capacity versus risk tolerance. All of these are elements that we look at the exact same way I looked at everything I needed to look at to navigate that weather system to safely have my family arrive, not only during the time frame we were traveling in the air with a smooth, comfortable ride, okay, but have them safely arrive on the backside of that weather.
We're going to be coming up on the bottom of the hour here, and so we're going to have to take a break here for news and weather. Tell folks, again, with the phone number or going to retirenowhouston.com, a portfolio x-ray, the portfolio flight plan x-ray, if you will. What will exactly you do for our listeners?
Do is find out how much risk you're taking. Are you the one flying it over the water when for 23 minutes additional time you could be so much safer? Are you the one who's not able to navigate that weather system because you're doing it the wrong way, or you're not thinking about everything you need to think about that could cause you issues along the way? That's where we come in. We take the analogies I'm using about the flights I did yesterday with my own family on board my airplane and how we managed the risk we were faced with in a very safe way, okay, to get us to our destination. Retirement planning is no different. You have risk you face. How do we plan for those risks in a safe way that ultimately gets you to your destination, which is living a wonderful life and going to see your maker, having known you didn't make no regrets, you didn't make any mistakes along the way, and everything was as it should have been.
Call right now. Get your financial flight plan from Ryan Wheelis and the team here at Allied Wealth. It is as simple as this. Dial this phone number, 844-944-7555. That's 844-944-7555. People are standing by right now to take your call. There's no cost to sit down with Ryan and the team. More On the Money with Ryan Wheelis right after this.